KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're
the Real Estate Rat Pack.
Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
There it is,
Someday
Rob.
I'm going to learn how to do that.
Well, he missed the 3-day seminar.
But not today.
You missed the seminar. You know, there was a seminar. It was an all-day event.
Yes.
They brought a lot of crazy people in.
It was a very intensive training.
Yes. Well,
You can't just go howling without training.
Intense came to mind, actually.
You know, the great thing about today's show is we actually have two individuals in our studio right now. You know, we're all talking about real estate law and best practices, both residential and commercial side of things. And, you know, it's very rare that you get an attorney for 1 hour for free.
Yeah,
we actually have that today.
Yeah, well, we're assuming that it's free. I hope.
He's going to send us an invoice, Chris. Shut up.
You send that to Rob, by the way.
We're like, man, we've got a bunch of legal issues that we're dealing with. How can we get that for free? We need to get an attorney on.
Yeah. But, you know, if you do have the great thing about today's show, if you have a question, give us a call, 800-808-5548. You know, we have some great individuals. We have Chris Pham with the Chris Pham Law Firm, also a fee attorney for Capital Title. Chris, how you doing?
Thank you, Christopher. Pleasure being here today. Thank you so much for the invitation. Rob and Joe, pleasure meeting you today.
You bet.
It's great to be on this show.
Absolutely. Well,
Glad to have you.
It's one of those things. We love having you, and, you know, we're going to have a lot of questions for you. We also have right next to you Nicole Vaughn. Nicole, how you doing?
I'm doing great, guys.
Nicole
Good morning.
Lopez,
Thank
sorry.
you.
Yeah.
It depends on what day it is.
What
really.
day it is.
if you're mad at him or not, right?
And, you know, one of the things that Nicole actually is pretty interesting, Nicole has been nominated, and you can probably better say this, for, let us know what you've been nominated for.
Okay, I am one of the 50 finalists for the National Association of Realtors 30 Under 30, so 30 professionals nationwide in our industry that are under 30 years of age. So now everybody knows how old I am.
You know,
Congratulations, Nicole.
I actually have shoes older than 30 years old. Oh, wow.
That is too funny. But, you know, that's great. And you're going to give out, in the course of this show, some information on how people can actually go out there and vote as well. Is that correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Because one of the things we want to make sure you do, you know, one of the things that we do all the time, the Real Estate Rat Pack and all of us here, is we support our community. We support our really good professionals in the community. And it's important also, Rob and I talk about this all the time, is the average age of an agent is actually what?
57 years old.
57 years old. And so, Rob, you're a big proponent of making sure that we promote the younger generation that's coming up through the ranks.
You know, I'm looking for my replacement.
Right. And I'm not going to be it.
You're not going to be it. So no, but any industry has to be concerned about making sure that they're inviting young blood into it, because otherwise an industry will die.
I would agree.
Without new blood. And the problem is, though, the number of people 57 and older is double amount of those 40 and under. So I'm thinking after we die off, or, you know, actually old realtors never die. They just go listless. However, that being said, I
He'll
get
be
to work
here
that
all
up.
day.
But the younger generation is going to inherit a big market with a lot less people. Of course, that might be good news, but then you have to go back to the 80-20 rule that only 20% of the agents are actually doing a lot of business.
Right.
And so you can have a very small number of people doing all the business. So that's why we need young blood.
Right.
Organizations need young blood. You know, they wither and die because they need new ideas, fresh ideas, and embracing the new technologies. It's just very important. That's why they make such a thing at NAR. And, of course, at HAR, we have a group called NRG, which is Next Generation Real Estate, and or Next Generation Realtors, excuse me. And, you know, that's all about promoting young people in the industry.
Absolutely. And we do a lot of stuff with them as well. We've had a lot of them on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, one of the things we talk about always is continue to promote in the industry. And, you know, and speaking of that promotion, you know, it's been a very, we were talking about this before we got on air. It's been a very, very hot market.
It is smoking hot.
And one of the things that we talk about all the time, one of the things we talk about all the time is the importance as it gets bigger and as markets change, especially in today's market, a lot of changes are going on. It's very important to have a very good real estate attorney at your side. You know, Chris, we talked about this as a lot. Is it's important to have a good real estate attorney who can ask some basic questions, especially with Rob saying, as new individuals are coming on board, as new individuals are joining the ranks of realtors. You know, they have questions, and there's also legal aspects of those questions that they have to get to know. What are you seeing, Chris, as some of the things in the industry in general that might be going on right now?
Thank you, Christopher. As you know, the real estate industry it's in the whole is heavily regulated by federal law and state law.
Right.
So as we have new agents coming in, we got to make sure that these people can rely on an attorney to walk alongside with them as they, I guess, develop their professional career. And I've been working with real estate brokers and agents for a long time, for at least 10 years.
Wow.
And they get questions, they call me, I help them along. Sometimes it's 5-7 phone calls, just save them a lot of headache.
Absolutely.
And legal problems.
And,
so,
and one of the things I tell everybody is just because there's a contract that's basically written by the state of Texas doesn't mean you're protected.
No, it absolutely does not.
You know, and that's a misnomer I think a lot of people have out there is, oh, don't worry, these are state available contracts. They are, promulgated by the state of Texas or by TREC, et cetera, et cetera. They're absolutely fine. I'm protected, and that's not necessarily the case.
Not necessarily true. And of course, it's, the areas of the law is often gray. It's never.
Right.
It's never. There's not absolutes. And I do want to mention that Chris Pham here is a Harvard graduate and is board certified in commercial real estate.
So where is this Harvard school? That's north of Dallas, I've heard.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, but he is a graduate of Harvard. Very interesting background also of how he got and his passion in real estate. But before we get to that, we actually have our first caller. It's already called in right now.
Oh, wow. We have to put on the headphone thingies.
To put on the headphones to be able to hear. Absolutely. So, caller Teresa, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you boys doing this morning?
Oh, this is our favorite.
Is this Teresa Kennedy?
This is the Teresa.
Good morning.
Good morning. I actually have, I think, a pretty good question for you guys. So let's say that you have a seller, and and let's say that they disclose the best information they can about their property. And it's a manufactured home, and it's got to be tied down to meet lender requirements. And to the best of her knowledge, it is tied down, but she was stating that it's permanently fixed. Well, after the engineer report, we get a contract, and the engineer report reflects that it is not permanently tied down. And so you're receiving bullying emails from the buyer's agent that, you were misrepresenting and baiting the buyer to purchase this property. But under Section 7, it states that if it doesn't meet lender requirements, that the buyer can terminate, the contract. So I guess my question is, or if there are any legal ramifications that if it doesn't meet lender requirements, do you kind of follow what I'm trying to ask?
Yeah, I would imagine so. I think the question, basically, Chris, is, let's say you've gone through, you've taken a listing, they've done disclosure, et cetera, and then you go through the process. It's probably gone through an inspection period. Monies have been exchanged in regards to not only earnest money, but costs associated with.
The inspection's been done, and then come to find out it wasn't permanently fixed, and so the seller thought it was.
That is correct. So now the lender can't lend, and this happens, but this is a very common question. Next thing you know, the buyers have become enraged because they think they were defrauded, or more importantly, they're now out money.
Yes.
What's the legal ramifications of something like that, or how does something like that get addressed?
The way the law in Texas works is if the seller believes, to the best of his or her knowledge, that the house is structured in certain ways, then he should be off the hook. I mean,
Okay.
only if you intentionally trying to mislead the buyer that you run to problem. So, but to the best of your knowledge, that you believe the house is permanently affixed to the ground, you off the hook, because there's no documents that was presented to you that can be proven to say that you had awareness that the house was not permanently affixed to the ground. Then you'll be run to problem with the buyer.
So that's very similar to what we always talk about, like possession's 9/10 of the law. Same thing. If you show that you did in the best of your ability to be able to document that, and there's no documentation, because you're right. Generally speaking, you're going to do what they call a seller's disclosure. They're going to go through. They're going to fill this, and it says specifically in there, to the best of your ability, are you aware of any of these items? Right.
That is absolutely correct.
And then, and a lot of times, there's a lot of people who live in their place a long time, and guess what? They don't remember anything. Unfortunately, it's just the way it goes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well, she bought this as an investment property. But anyway, long story short, she's going to have it permanently fixed. But it was this huge, I've never experienced anything like that.
I understand. I mean, buyers can become irate, but the way things works is the buyers have to do their inspection of the property. And I understand they probably out some money to do the inspection, and the lenders probably took some money from them to the appraisal and the lender's fees.
Well, they haven't done the appraisal yet. Oh yeah, no. Well, but the lender, as soon as my seller had the engineer report done and turned in, the lender stopped all we're not going any further until this is permanently fixed. And so that it was just whew. Anyway, it was a pretty big headache, but it all worked out, thank goodness.
Well,
but that was my question is, specifically about that, because, and I figured if it doesn't meet lender requirements, that they cannot force the seller to make the repair. But she's going to anyway. So,
well, Teresa, Teresa, thank you very much for calling in as usual. At the end of the show today, we got one of your quotes coming up.
Yes, I love it.
Well,
I got my little jukebox next to me listening to it, because I'm not. The last weekend, I sat in my car in the parking lot of Trader Joe's for the full hour and listened to you guys. And I'm like, my neighbors are going to really be looking at me if I'm sitting in my car for an hour. So they have to stay inside my house this time.
They should be used to you by now, Teresa.
I know, right?
Well, thank you very much for calling in this morning, Teresa.
Okay, guys. I'll talk to y'all later.
Likewise. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
And that's a very good point. One of the things that we do see a lot, I saw it here recently, is that an agent went through up in the Kingwood area, went through and did a deal. Unfortunately, the lender, in this case us, found something that we couldn't approve the file on. And the client became irate in regards to that, and then went after blood, I hate to say this, to the agent, saying, hey, well, guess what? Maybe if I'd have known this or I've known this. And so one of the things I tell everybody is, and I'm always very honest with all clients, is you have to go into a real estate transaction with your eyes open and know that, like anything, there's going to be monies that can be lost. There's going to be expenses that have to be made. And sometimes things happen during that process that are out of everybody's control. Because all of us are dealing with regulatory requirements associated with the real estate side of things. You're dealing with lending requirements associated with CFPB. You're also dealing with clients who don't understand sometimes the mechanisms to go through a real estate transaction, what it takes to get approved, what it takes to buy that
So
property.
do you think they should hire a professional to do that?
Oh, absolutely. I would absolutely think they need to hire a professional.
There's a space on there for an attorney on our contracts on page 8 of the contract. There's a reason for that. It actually says consult an attorney if you don't understand it.
Yep. But but we see it. We see a lot of people get frustrated. We see a lot of people, in that market who don't understand. And so the very first thing, we are a nation that is very sue happy. And so the one thing that everyone wants to do is go out there and say, well, guess what? You'll be hearing from my attorney. And so that's where Chris Pham comes in place, especially for all of our wonderful agents out there to be able to have somebody to turn to. With that being said, we are coming up against a break because time flies when you're having fun.
How's that possible?
Yeah, Zach, can you believe it? But we have Chris Pham and Nicole Lopez in studio. Feel free to call us, 800-808-5548. We're going to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Something's gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we are back in the studio.
Chatting about the new One Guard commercial. When did that happen?
How'd that get there?
You know what they say, between the breaks, all the fun stuff happens.
Yes.
Yeah, well, speaking of One Guard, and in residential service contracts, that's one of the best things I tell people about how to stay out of court is, let's put some of the issues that may occur after the closing onto a service contract. Because what invariably happens, I've had it happen multiple times, believe it or not, that I'd sell the house, air conditioner checked out fine with the inspector. 2 weeks later, it goes out because it doesn't take much time for just all of a sudden go out.
Right.
Call something like One Guard, come out and fix it. I mean, that's, I have not sold a house without a service policy since probably the early 80s.
Wow. And he hasn't sold a house since the early 80s either.
Not true.
I'm just messing with you, Rob.
I know, because it's easy, right?
But there is somebody right next to you who's looking possibly at selling their home.
Actually, I'm thinking, he said if he got an offer today, he would sell. And
that is
I told
correct.
him, if he did sell,
Hey,
he can go buy that new house for Kim.
Everything is for sale.
Everything is for sale. You heard it right here, Kim. Okay?
So I think you were just looking for what, 300,000?
$300K. I'm out today.
Yes. He'll be speed dialing all of us.
I will find a mover. Paying cash.
We actually happen to know something. Anyway.
But I like it when Rob mentioned about a residential service contract, and I think that's why important is to have a realtors or an agent representing you when you sell or buy a house.
Right.
Because I've closed a lot of residential properties in my title company, and I've noticed the deals in which the buyers are not being represented by realtors or agents, they miss this point.
It's
wow.
Yeah.
I didn't really. I thought they were okay for a long time, but I actually had somebody move into over on Drexel, a house over in Highland Village. It's an older home, and they moved into it. Didn't turn their air conditioner on. I mean, their heater on rather for about 6 months because I sold it to them in like May or June.
Right.
First time they turned the heater on, of course, cracked heat exchanger. Right. It's an old unit. The warranty company came out and replaced the entire thing because they couldn't find parts for it.
Wow.
So for a at that time it was $35 trip charge. Now I think it's $45. So for $35, they got a brand new heater.
And
that's pretty awesome.
And what Chris was saying is true. I am a thorough believer in this market, in any market, but in this market, in the real estate market, use a professional, use a trained, licensed realtor who can walk you through that process, who can show you the ups and downs, who can protect you against some of the things people don't know. Because a lot of times you mentioned, Chris, you end up closing deals that are for sale by owner, or people who are doing a one-on-one transaction, et cetera, et cetera. They miss things.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And I've looked at some of the contracts, which are, I guess, put together by folks who try to do it themselves for sale by owner. Boy.
Yes.
from
that says it all, right there, boy.
Right there, yeah.
From an attorney who is a closing attorney for a title company. I can't advise them because I don't represent them. But I wish they had gone to an agent who could have helped them better.
Yeah.
You want to call like timeout in the middle. Okay, timeout. This is off the record here.
And the thing is, our promulgated contracts are really pretty simple. They're written in lay terms, but you still have to kind of know how they work and what to do with them. And a lot of people don't like attorneys until they need one.
Oh, absolutely.
So I always encourage people to keep a great relationship with an attorney if you're going to be in the real estate industry, or if you're buying or selling, know an attorney that you can at least, pick up the phone, call, pay a little bit of a fee to get some good advice if they're not sure. It's really, you pay me now or you pay me later. Later's going to be a lot more expensive.
Oh, yeah. And Chris says all the time, Chris's phone is on and available to take those phone calls. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on. I mean, in the typical real estate transaction, you obviously have two parties. You got a buyer's party and you got the seller's party. And sometimes what happens is those.
All I heard was party.
Yeah, exactly. I would agree. Yeah. But in those transactions, you can have misinterpretations. One side believes one item, one side believes the other items. What are some of the common things that you're seeing, Chris, when it comes to a typical residential real estate transaction? Because you do obviously commercial and residential right there. Well, what are some of the common things, or the most common things I would say that you see agents call you about maybe some misinterpretations that went on, or about what you're representing them on?
Okay. I think most on a residential contract, I think probably the most misunderstood item is the return of earnest money. How and when it's going to be returned to one party. A lot of folks automatically believe that if I don't want to go forward, then I'll get my earnest money back. But they fail to understand that there's an option period. When you pass the option period, you're on the hook.
Right.
Unless the lenders reject the property or reject your loan application, then you can't get your earnest money back.
Right.
But a lot of buyers, especially buyers who are not represented by realtors or agents, misunderstood that point.
Yeah, there's some negotiating, and actually it's a buyer's contract. There's a lot of holes in it to get out, and Nicole can certainly attest to that. But there's a couple of things that you can terminate a contract. One of them, of course, is if you can't get credit approval within the negotiated number of days. And I think the market in this area is about 21 days to get that.
Right.
But if you go beyond that day and you don't tell people the other side that you have not gotten credit approval, you're on the hook for that earnest money. And that's what a lot of people, especially the ones that are not represented, don't understand. The other out is, of course, is the addendum for the mandatory HOA. There is a period of time that they have it to get that document to the buyers. And if they don't get the document to the buyers, they can terminate up to the day of closing. Or if they do get it to them, they still have 3 days right to terminate after 3 days of receiving that. So there's a lot of things in there, but you got to be aware of them.
I agree. Yeah.
And you mentioned right there, because a lot of times you also have in a contract, you have in the baseline of the contract, you have that option period, but then you also have a financing addendum. And that finance addendum is what gives them the alternative to be able to get finance. You mentioned in 21 days.
That's market. It's negotiable.
It's all negotiable, right? You can negotiate that 10 days, 20 days.
Well, this
Nicole
market,
with me 5 days. It's.
And a lot of people don't understand that the termination has to be in writing.
Yeah.
You gotta to fax it over, or at least nowadays we may be able to email it over. If the contract allows for email delivery.
Avis Wukash is the chairman of the commissioners for TREC, Texas Real Estate Commission, and I just adore her. She had a great saying. I have never forgotten this, and I'm using it in all my classes when I teach, is that contracts don't die. You have to kill them. And
that's
it's true,
a good one.
Because there's some, even in the contract it says that, the terms of the contract will survive the closing. And there's a lot of things that, if there's things were promised or things like that, you can go back to, hey, this was part of it. Have you ever get some things like that? People close and what happened was not what was supposed to happen.
Oh, absolutely. There are a lot of provisions in the contract that survive the closing. The buyers use provisions in the contract after closing to go after the seller and the seller's agent if they knew about certain things and failed to disclose it or disclose it incorrectly in the seller disclosure form. So,
and the other thing I tell everybody, because Rob was saying this as well, is, and for all those out there, remember, verbal is non-binding. Chris, talk a little bit about that, because people don't realize is if you're in the process of negotiating, you have a written contract, and then, because I've seen this before, at closing, they're sitting there going, oh, well, yeah, you said this, and then the other party says, well, I didn't realize, or they're taken aback by it, or the agent's like, well, you can't say that. Verbal is non-binding. Verbal is not in a way to agree upon a negotiation. It has to be done in writing.
I agree with you, Christopher. In real estate transactions, it has to be written down. But nowadays, we accept email as form of contractual agreement. So the better it is a signed contract and sign amendment. But certain things, like if I agree to $1,000 seller's contribution to fix the heater, that has to be signed and in the form of an amendment to the contract by the sellers and the buyers and the sellers. Yeah.
And you have to be very careful with that. Yeah. For example, on my email, I have a disclaimer at the bottom that states that anything that transpires in the email conversation is not binding. That way, myself, my buyers, and my sellers are not bound to what is stated in that email unless it is on a track or on some type of promulgated form.
Yeah, and I would agree because, one of the things that I see sometimes, because we talk about this, is an individual put, hey, by the way, Nicole, I want to see if the sellers would be willing to do this, right? And so in their mind, you said, I'll check on it. But I hate to say it, a lot of times they don't see the I'll check on it. Well, they just see as, well, I requested this to be done.
Yeah, and there's two types of law out there. There's statute and there's common law. Common law is established by court cases and what the decisions were. And there's a decision out there right now that they took emails that were going back and forth, and the buyer was buying a house, and then of course via email thought they had an option to buy another piece of property from the same seller. And the seller said, no, you don't have an option. And then what happened is that they were sending them a carbon copy with every email. And since the seller didn't object to it, the court found that it met the statutes of fraud to have it in writing. The statutes of fraud 101 is that everything has to be in writing for real estate. So you can. The thing is, agents are not legally allowed. We are not general agents. We're special agents. We are not allowed to enjoin our principals into agreements.
Right.
That's at all. But they found that since the seller was in the thread of the email, that it met the statutes of fraud, and they got that option. So you got to be really careful about what you email. Have you found anything like that, Chris?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Email are now an acceptable form of communication and be admitted to the court in Texas. So if this one party admits that is his or her email, right. Whatever he or she written out in that email in exchange with the other party will be admitted to court and will be used as evidence against the party who wrote that email.
And I have a question for you as well. Along those lines, what about text messages? How are those legally? Are they legally binding?
Now, I haven't run into a lot of cases where the courts have come down on the text messages. Because, of course, there got to be...
it's coming.
It's coming.
It will be coming. I agree.
I promise you, it's coming.
After this show, they're like, "Oh my, that's a great idea."
I think if
negotiate a whole darn contract via text, I'm sure that's.
I promise you, it's already happened.
Yeah, I guess my thinking is as long as the party who issued that text message admit that he or she did issue the text messages, I think eventually the court will come down and say, yes, if you the one who issued the text messages, we're going to use that as evidence.
Well, and you would imagine that what's going to happen here eventually, the way communication has changed, the way social media has picked up, the way a lot of that stuff is going on, one of the things you'll end up seeing is, like anything, the courts will eventually make a decision. There'll be a case. The court will make a decision, and then new laws or regulations, et cetera, will be put in place because of that. Absolutely. It's typical, and it happens all the time.
I'm hearing music.
You know what else happens all the time is we have to do a break.
Well, we got to pay for the show.
And we have to pay for the show. So everybody, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Show, where Rob, every time we come on, feels more and more seasoned. Nicole just got through reiterating that to him.
800-808-5548 if you have questions. We are talking about commercial real estate law, and we have one of the top realtors under 30 that can be found anywhere.
Hey.
Anywhere.
Hey.
This shameless plug brought to you by.
But, before we do that, though, we actually have a caller right now. Amanda, how are you doing?
It's Samantha.
Oh, Samantha.
Both of them.
And I'm sorry, I didn't realize that the attorney specialized in commercial real estate, but he probably still would be able to answer my question.
He does both.
He does both, Samantha.
Wonderful, thank you. My clients are primarily builders and flippers and investors. And so a common question that I get, and I'm really kind of gray on it on this, is how many owner finance transactions is one person able to do? And that means within themselves and within one of their own entities. How many deals could they effectively owner finance out?
Thank you for calling in, Samantha. Now, the world has changed since January 10th, 2014 on owner financing because of Dodd-Frank. Thanks to, I guess, Senator Dodd and Representative Barney Frank. Now, if you're an individual selling your house, you're allowed to do one transaction per year, and you're not obligated to have a license. Nowadays, we have the loan originator licensee out there, which are regulated by the federal government, not just by the state of Texas anymore.
Correct.
As Christopher Kelso knows.
That's correct. The national the national licensing system, basically, that's out there. The national mortgage.
Now, it was my understanding under the SAFE Act that it was in 2010 that they allowed to use investors to do any 12, a rolling 12 months.
Yeah.
So has that changed for 2014? It
has been changed by Dodd-Frank. Dodd-Frank took over on January 10th of 2014. Yeah. So actually, Dodd-Frank goes into certain complications. I've given a seminar, a whole hour on owner financing and Dodd-Frank. So it will be this is which basically a synopsis. If you have an entity trying to sell to buyers on owner financing basis, and again, Dodd-Frank only applies to buyers who are using the residential properties as their primary residence. If you have buyers,
because, a lot of them also, their owner financing deals to other investors who are using the property as income-producing rental property.
Okay, now if you're selling the homes to investors, then Dodd-Frank does not apply.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about Dodd-Frank. But if you have a buyer who's going to use the house as his or her home, then you have to watch out for Dodd-Frank.
Okay, and so if that's the case, then it's one a year per person.
1 a year for one person.
And per entity also?
If you have an entity, you can do up to 3 a year. However, there's certain rules and regulations that apply. My general approach to owner financing nowadays is if you're going to do more than 1 a year, you should use a loan originating a residential mortgage loan originator to act as a go-between between the owner financier and the borrower.
There's a new business for you, Chris.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I'll get together with Chris after this.
Yeah, we do use note servicing companies, especially if some of the properties, if it is a wrap, if some of the properties are still being financed.
No, it's not just the servicing part of it. It's the origination part of it. That a mortgage company can get involved in. For example, like collecting all the documents from the borrowers to be able to show that this borrower is going to be able to pay the monthly mortgage payment. Check his credit score, check the borrower's income, employment, collected 1003 applications, issue the TIL, issue GFE to the borrowers. So I highly recommend that if you're going to do owner finance more than 1 a year, you have to get a residential mortgage loan originator involved.
Do you have anyone that you like to refer?
Christopher Kelso, do you
Yeah, that's a good question. Rob was joking, saying a good, obviously from a loan perspective, we generate and generate loans under our own name, et cetera, et cetera. I guess what you're suggesting is somebody who would be sort of a go-between right there to be able to properly display if they, in the event of an audit, that they were protected by going through this process of having.
Sure, I understand that. We pull all of the documents that you mentioned, and we use an attorney to write the contract. and we clear through title and then use the note servicing company to maintain it.
But they want to make sure that they're following all the guidelines of CFPB and rights of rescission and those types of things that have to be disclosed on any normal mortgage application. So I'm sure that's their logic behind using a loan.
No, I like that though. Yeah, one
absolutely.
more step is not a problem though. I like to keep it clean and simple.
Well, Chris, I'm thinking that
I'm thinking I'm going to give you a call a little bit later on this week.
Please do. I work with Rob. He's got my number, so please ask him.
Yeah, Samantha Merritt is with Berkshire Hathaway Anderson Properties and a top agent. So
absolutely.
There's lots
we
of
have
business.
Definitely met. Well, Samantha, hopefully that answers some of your questions right there. I'll definitely be getting together with you later on this week, and we'll see what we can come up with there for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Very
Likewise.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks for calling.
Yeah, and that's a great question right there. One of the things, obviously, is as Dodd-Frank has gone into place and the CFPB has taken over, a lot of things have changed. And one of the things, it gets back to using a professional in that transaction. You always want to make sure that in a real estate transaction, you use licensed professionals. You use individuals who also can guide you through that process. And speaking of individuals to guide you through processes, we have a great individual right here with Nicole, who has now been nominated as one of the top 30 under 30.
Finalists, 50
finalists.
One of the 50
finalists,
I haven't
sorry.
made it yet.
50
Nar might kill
finalists
me.
as the top. She got it correct. 30 under 30. We're talking about, obviously, best practices, et cetera.
Right.
What is the secret to your success? I mean, how did you get into the business, and what has brought you to this point? What are some of your best practices that you utilize?
Well, coming into the business, I've technically been in the business since I was 15 years old. My mother works for home building.
So just about 3 or 4 years then.
Yeah, just about
exactly.
3 or 4 years, yes.
Yeah.
And then my father is a mortgage banker as well. So I've been kind of immersed in this industry for a while. But one of the most important
I feel sorry
things,
for you. Both sides right there.
I know. I've known about loan origination since I was 3.
Exactly.
But as far as best practices go, one of the best things is to have a good legal counselor like Chris on your side. That way you can field questions to them when they come to you, because a lot of times you want to minimize risk when you're answering those types of questions to your clients. So being able to field them to a knowledgeable professional is huge. Another thing that I've done is staying up to date with building regulations, building codes, building trends, what's going on in our market and in our industry, making sure that I'm aware of things like new energy efficiency features and solar technology and things that the buyers and sellers are really looking for.
That was our last week's show.
Oh.
Exactly.
Well, kicking back to that. But yeah, just staying up to date in what's going on and really focusing in on my buyers and sellers' needs and being empathetic to them and their situation and really being more of a trusted advisor than a real estate professional to them is really what's helped me.
And, and the other thing, because I've worked with Nicole for a little while now, and an excellent individual, but the other thing is the attention to detail. One of the things, how to go do it, who to call, but it's also the attention to detail and the aspect of, when you don't know something, where to put that individual to get the best answers.
Absolutely. And being a part of the Real Estate Rat Pack with these guys, I've met several individuals. Ashley Bowles is one of the guys that I refer clients to for inspections on
Phenomenal
my referral list.
home inspection.
Yes.
Yes.
Over there at
That's a
AB
great
Bowles
job.
Home Inspection.
Yes. So
Shameless plug. We'll invoice him.
And we did.
And we do.
yeah,
He's great.
But just having a really good, knowledgeable base group of individuals that I can turn to has been vital. Being a young realtor in the industry, making sure that I have resources available.
So
for
if
that.
I'm not old but I'm seasoned,
Yes.
then she would be not young but unseasoned.
I'm unseasoned. Yes.
Okay. I just want to get the playing field here.
We are always trying to make sure Rob references himself not as old, but as seasoned.
As seasoned.
So people can vote for you for this top 30 thing?
Absolutely.
Where do we find that?
March 21st, which is next Friday, on Realtor.com/30 under 30. They're going to have all of our profiles for the 50 finalists. You can go on there. You can log in and vote once per day. And that is for the web favorite category, which I would really like to take home for the city of Houston. Bringing home the web favorite would be huge for us here because we don't have a web favorite
Nicole,
winner.
Can you do us a favor and post that link on the Facebook page for the Real Estate Rat Pack?
I absolutely will. I would love to do that.
And one of the things, is interesting is, I think we were talking about this, in Houston, there's only 2 finalists.
That is correct. Me and one other agent from Martha Turner Properties.
So there's only 2 agents right now that 5 in the state of Texas.
That's correct.
It's
yes.
amazing to consider that the market here and as demanding as it is, as hot as it is, that we don't have more on the list. But I don't know. Maybe they're thinking that everybody everywhere else has to work really hard to get their sales or something. I don't know.
They do, and it's really interesting watching the numbers from realtors nationwide, because you have some that sell $30 million as an individual and some that have sold $6 million as an individual, and it all goes into different factors: community involvement, the market that they're in, the transaction size that they've done, and what really sets them apart and makes them unique as an individual agent. And that's really what I think the National Association of Realtors is looking for within this contest, this competition.
Well, not only all those listening out there, but a lot of our agents that are listening out there, do us a favor. Let's support one of Houston's own right here, an individual who's a great individual, who has done a lot, who will continue to do a lot. But I think it's important for us to continue to promote how important and how vital real estate is in general, but also in the Houston market. I mean, it's absolutely booming. And it's important for us to always have individuals like Nicole who are energetic, who are focused, who are dedicated, and who are professional in an industry that I absolutely love and have been involved with for a long time. And it's fun to see individuals like that. So,
it gives me hope for the future.
Hope
Thank
for the
you.
future. That is correct. and 95 years from now, she might be sitting here saying she's seasoned.
Yes.
95 short years
Well,
from now.
seasoning can happen pretty quickly in real estate because it really is a trial by fire. You get your license, you're excited, you get out there in the field, and then that's where you actually learn something.
Well, speaking of learning something, I learned when that music comes on, we have to go to another break. So everybody, stay tuned. We'll be back for the next segment in one moment.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show. During the break, we were mentioning one thing. There's an individual sitting up there in Kingwood right now who's been listening to this show, I think, for at least the past 45 minutes. And the one thing we haven't done is say his name the whole time or the team.
You think we should?
I don't know. What do you think, so?
I don't.
We've got
We're just teasing.
I don't know.
We're just teasing right there.
Yeah, we're just teasing.
But Doug, we want to give a big shout out to you, buddy. You sent us down one of your best right here. That is Doug Erdy with the Doug Erdy Group, and that's where you're from, right?
That is correct. Hello, Doug.
It's always important to give those good shout outs. Great individual. You guys have a great, big, growing team up there in the Kingwood area.
We do. When we opened the brokerage back in October, we started with, I think, 4 agents, and now we are up to 17. So it has been growing. It's been very successful for us. We just opened an office in the Woodlands as well, and we are in the process of scouting locations in the Austin area as well as in Midtown.
Wow.
We were like, Doug, we like having you on the show and everything, but no offense, can you send someone hotter than you?
I have more hair than he does, yes.
Absolutely. And let me tell you, the other thing is Nicole got me involved with some CrossFit training up in the Kingwood area that absolutely kicked my butt. I think.
Can you say butt on Christian radio?
You can say butt. Yes.
Okay.
I was your gluteus maximus.
My gluteus maximus. What's amazing is I had pneumonia for 3 weeks. Right. I swear I had no energy to fight it after you kicked my butt for 2 weeks into that CrossFit.
I'm sorry. Yes. Chris has been training or was training after he quit.
I'll get back on it. No. I'll get back on it
at Fit Crew in Humble.
Yes.
So. Doing some CrossFit, doing some heavy lifting, kicking his butt around.
I'll tell you what, but I made the run around the whole building with you a couple times.
You did, yes. You did me proud.
I did you proud on a couple occasions. That is correct.
Well, I will be out. It's an interesting time to miss that. I'll be mention that I'll be out next week. I will be absent from the Rat Pack. I will be listening from Boston.
He'll be in Boston for a long time, like 10 days or something.
10 days we're going to be up there for the International Tang Sudo competition. My son and I will be competing, so we'll be posting some of those fun pics on Facebook as well. So keep your eye out for those.
Samantha, who had just called in, has a question, and this is for Chris Pham. It says they had another question about a series of LLCs, and does it protect property owners with multiple properties from being sued?
No. Texas Series LLC is a relatively new thing that was approved by the Texas legislature. What a it's a perfect tool for an investor who owns multiple properties. Instead of setting up multiple LLCs, what we can do nowadays is to set up one series LLC, and in which we can put, for example, one shopping center into series 1, and then another multi-family complex into series 2, and then let's say an industrial property in series 3. But there are rules and regulations that we have to adhere to in order to protect the separation between series 1, series 2, and series 3, that you have to have separate accounting book, separate bank account. You cannot commingle funds among the series. Otherwise, whoever trying to sue the series number 1 can say, hey, go to the judge and say, Judge, the owners of this LLC basically commingle funds among the different series, so they don't respect the rules of separation. So why don't we tear down we pierce that veil between series 1 and 2, and we can take the properties on from series 2 as well. So I think it's a great tool for an investor who owns multiple properties. But we just have to
that's the accounting thing. They're going to say that you're not really treating this as a series type of LLC. You're really treating it like a normal. So if you have one property that the suit's going to be about, they're going to be able to go after all the properties.
That is correct, Rob. You hit the nail right in the head. So it's a great tool, as I said. But you just have to adhere to all these financial reporting and bookkeeping and separate bank accounts, and take care of all the paperwork properly. Yeah.
Everybody looks like they're about to ask a question. Nobody asks. We're all defer. You can't defer to everybody.
That is correct.
I just had a question. You were something you mentioned earlier when we were talking before the show that I thought was interesting, is that obviously the residential market has just been crazy for the last couple of years and just an all-time record high, but that you had made the comment that commercial was lags behind a little bit on the residential side. So you're really starting to see the same level of activity in the commercial real estate?
I just use the level of closings at my little title company as the indicator. And in 2013, when the residential markets really pick up, we were totally surprised and taken aback by how fast and how strong the residential market has really picked up. The commercial markets in 2013 started to pick up a little bit, not as hot, not as strong as the residential market. But beginning this year in 2014, we started seeing a lot more activities.
What seems to be? What are you seeing a particular type of commercial real estate that has been happening more than others, or is it just in general?
I've seen a lot of office buildings being constructed and closed, especially along the energy corridor, where all the oil companies are just moving in and start construction like crazy.
Oh, and I would agree with you. If you drive down there, in fact, it was funny you're saying this. I was driving yesterday between Highway 6, right before Highway 6, a whole swath of land up there, and there was a brand new section that said "New building coming soon." The pre-sale right there. And my first thought was, if you go down there right now, you've got probably 10 new buildings already in the energy corridor, and you've got probably about 5 or 6 that have already been staked out saying coming soon. It's amazing how that market, as you're mentioning in the office buildings, is absolutely just booming, especially in the area of the energy corridor where oil and gas is still, absolutely booming.
Well, Texas leads the job creating market, period. And Houston leads Texas. So it's just, I don't know where we're going to put them all. They were all in front of me the other day on I-10, by the way.
Right. Is that the moment you called me and said, yes, I know. But, Nicole, what are you seeing in regards to relocation here? I mean, obviously it's a very strong, we talk about oil and gas, we talk about energy corridor, but what are you seeing in general as well from your side of the business?
It's been very heavy, of course, in the Woodlands with ExxonMobil and several other companies relocating their corporate offices to the Woodlands. But I've also seen a lot of expansion in the areas surrounding the Woodlands, even as far out as Kingwood and Willis and Conroe. Those areas as well are picking up dramatically, and properties that, back in 2009, had you purchased and tried to flip 2 years later, you might have been in a negative equity situation, and these people are making returns on equity just because the cost of the homes, the price of the homes, and the value has increased exponentially over the last, probably the last 18 months or so.
Well, I can imagine. I mean, one of the things that we're seeing, I mean, we see this all the time, is individuals are out there looking at buying a home, the amount of multiple offers that are in the same deal. And then, we get it a lot of times on the lending side. It's, hey, we finally won the deal. I get a call from Nicole. Hey, we finally won it.
We finally did it.
Let me know when the appraisal comes in.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
I'm actually writing a class right now on how to handle multiple offers because there's a lot of things being done incorrectly.
Right.
And from the seller side, from the buyer side, and things like that, there's just a lot of things to know. So that's another reason to call a professional, because if you want to be able to get that house, and if you're walking in without somebody helping you, you're probably not going to be very successful.
No, not at all.
No, and I would absolutely agree. I think, one of the things, we talk about this all the time. If you still forecast what's going on here in Houston, we're not forecasted to slow down. I mean, one of the things, we have a very low inventory. I think less than 3 months worth of inventory on average.
2.6. And
I think the legal term is insanely low, Chris.
Yes.
Insanely low. That is correct.
Well, I've been in the business 30-plus years. I've never seen inventory levels this low, ever.
Wow. So you've got that, and so it's important as ever to learn how to not only manage the sale of your property, but also we talked about this last show as well, is know how to manage the purchase of a new property. Because one of the things that's happening, and Joe mentioned this a while ago when he was jokingly saying, hey, they offer me $300,000, I'm selling my home tomorrow, and buying a new home for $300,000 is probably smaller than what I've got.
Just saying.
And that's
cash offers $300K. Humble area, I'll take it.
Make me move, right?
Exactly.
But that's why a lot of people aren't putting their house on the market. Is that where do I go?
Right.
They're worried that they're not going to be able to find somebody. But you know what? There are houses out there to buy.
Yes.
And if you do want to move up, it's a great time because interest rates are still at historic lows. How long that'll last, I don't know. They are edging up a little bit. You got a comment on that?
Well, I had a comment the other day because one of the things that we had been talking about earlier this year is rates are going to go up. Rates are going to go up. Rates are going to go up. And guess what's happened? The bond market, through a lot of other activities that are going on, rates are low again. I mean, the bond market has absolutely tanked again, and rates are again at extremely low rates. So, it's one of those things we're in that perfect storm still. You've got rates, you've got availability of money, you still have a lot of financing going on, so you have the ability to get out there and get into a home. It's a matter of finding the professional. It's a matter of getting there with an individual like Nicole and getting out there and finding a home and represent yourself well in that transaction. So.
Well, we're coming up to 2 minutes. I'd like to make sure that everybody gets a chance to talk about
absolutely
the show
agree.
And then how we can get a hold of you.
Yes, so let's start off with Nicole.
Absolutely. Again, guys, I'm Nicole Lopez. I'm with the Doug Erdy Realty Group in Northeast Houston. You can reach me via my Facebook page or www.dougerdy.com. And I would encourage any young professionals who are looking into getting into the real estate field, reach out, contact me if you have any questions. I would love to help, love to be a mentor. And again, don't forget to, on March 21st at noon Central Time, please go to realtor.com/30under30 and vote for me for National Association of Realtors 30 under 30.
We also
for
have
Nicole
that link.
Lopez.
We also have that link already up on the Real Estate Rat Pack Facebook page. So just go to facebook.com/Real Estate Rat Pack, and you can find that link and vote for Nicole.
Chris, how do we get a hold of you?
Thank you all for having me today on the Rio Show. My name is Christopher Pham. You can go to my website, christopherpham.com, or you can go to my Facebook page. It's the Christopher M. Pham Law Group. Again, I'm with Christopher M. Pham Law Group and Capital Title, and I love to hear feedback from all of you, especially all the agents and brokers. I've been working with them for 10 years and working alongside with them on the when they do their business. So look forward to working with you.
Absolutely. That's Chris Pham. One of the things I always leave everybody is a saying. Today's saying is, if you have people in your life to love, you are blessed. Slow down and enjoy the simple things. That's from Teresa Kennedy. Until next time, we're out.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's
Dean.
and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.